This is the Retenser Pro. Essentially, it's a little device that sits on the bridge, or some people call it the yoke, I think, of your racket, and it allows you to retension your strings, at least the middle strings on your racket. The idea is that you install this at the point of stringing, and then when you feel your strings lose tension, you can turn them and it tensions the string, which is actually, it's a really nice idea. In as much that if you can restore the tension and extend the life of your strings, that is more convenient, cuts down on cost of stringing and strings, but also it's good for the environment. I've now been testing this for the last couple of months on and off, and I have formed a pretty firm opinion of it. One which says, technically it works, but honestly, I did not like having this thing on my racket. And here's why. So first off, let's address that question of why would you want to retension your strings? And the first thing is that you use strings that lose tension. I picked Solinco Hyper-G in this because they typically lose tension before they lose life. So in principle, if you could genuinely extend the life of your strings while them being playable, then that is a really good idea. But for me, there's a couple of problems, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the first thing is, how does this thing actually work? Well, it comes in a packet and it's all these little bits of plastic, a bit like a toy out of a Kinder Egg, that you have to take the grommet off of your bridge or yoke and you install this onto there. If you've got 6 holes at the bottom, you have 3 cylinders. If you've got 8 holes at the bottom of your racket, you only have 2 cylinders. And the idea then is you string and put the string round all these little cylinders at the bottom, which straight away tells you that all it's going to do is retension the middle, in this case, the middle 6 strings, or if you have the 2-cylinder version, the middle 4 strings. So it's not going to tension the entire bed. Now there are 2 different versions. I've got the Pro version, which allows you to tension up to 3 kilos, or at least that's what the manufacturer claims, which equates to about 6.6 pounds of additional tension you can put back into those strings in the middle. And that should absolutely make a difference, and that is exactly what I wanted to test and find out. So stringing the Retenser, it was slightly fiddly because these cylinders are actually loose. So you've got to kind of hold it on while you're doing the stringing, but to be honest, once you get the middle one on with the first 2 strings, then it's on there and you can just move away. It's not that difficult to string. Again, you do have to take that little grommet strip off and then you install this in. And I did have to kind of read the instructions and look to make sure you get these little cylinders the right way around, but actually once you kind of look at it a bit, it does all make sense. So again, it's not the most difficult thing to install or to string. Now, I obviously haven't taken these strings out, but I do know already that when I take them out, at least the cylinders are going to be loose, so I'm going to need to be careful that they don't sort of ping off and get lost. But once it's installed, it's fairly neat. Obviously this one's orange, so it's a bit colorful. And then you also get this little key that goes inside the hole of the cylinder here that you can use to turn it. And there's actually 2 settings. You can go sort of 90 degrees to put in 1.5 kilos or 3.3 pounds, or you can go all the way around 180 degrees to put in that full 3 kilos or 6.6 pounds. So I did play with this, and honestly, I didn't use this in sort of hour-long or 2-hour-long bursts. I kind of would play for it for about half an hour, and then I'd switch back to my other rackets. So it took me quite a while to actually get up to a point where I felt the strings lost tension. Now on that, the key thing again with Hyper-G is that the strings still feel like they have life, even when they lose tension. If your strings feel like they've gone dead, then I don't think putting tension in is going to do anything to them. Those strings are gone. So I got to the point where I did feel the strings get looser, and I went around and I tightened up all the little barrels just to 90 degrees to put in what the manufacturer claims would be 1.5 kgs or 3.3 pounds. And immediately I absolutely could tell a difference. The string bed stiffened up, it did feel tighter, it was more playable. So then I went to the second position, and again, the difference was obvious. So I tightened it all the way around and up to the 180 degree position, which should be that 3 kilos or 6.6 pounds. And again, the difference really was obvious. It had stiffened up even more. So there's absolutely no question in my mind that the Retenser works. You can feel it. It's not one of those products you put it on and convince yourself something's happened. It genuinely changes the string bed. So that all sounds good, right? But there is one massive problem with this, and that is what it does to the weight and swing weight of your racket. So it didn't surprise me that it had worked because I've tested the Spaghetti method, which has different tensions across the string bed, and even just tensioning those middle strings, I absolutely expected it to make a significant difference, and it absolutely did. What did surprise me was just how much the weight of this changed the feel of this racket, which is the Technifiber T-Fight 300. So this device, I measured the weight of it, adds 8 grams to your racket, which in theory doesn't sound like much. But actually, as people will know who've started to customize their racket with maybe lead tape, even putting additional grips on, 8 grams in the world of rackets is actually quite a lot. So I started off, this racket's actually really whippy. It goes through the air really, really quickly. But as soon as I put this on, it's not that the static weight felt that so much more heavy, it was the swing weight. It just felt like it had completely changed the feel of the racket and it no longer whipped as nicely as it did before. And honestly, I hated that. And that's what kind of surprised me about the test, because I hadn't initially thought about how much it would change the specification of your racket and then in turn the feel. So had it put tension back in the strings? Absolutely. Did that make it more playable? 100%. I actually really liked that. But I just didn't want to play with the racket, which is why I didn't play with it for an extended period after. But there's another thing. I really didn't like the look of it. I just didn't like this being on my racket. Even as I was going through the playtest, I was going, I cannot wait to get this thing off. That's my absolutely honest opinion, I'm afraid to say. Which I think then brings the question, who is this actually for? Is there someone who this is for? I think if you're a club player, where maybe you're not so sensitive to the change in the feel of the racket, or maybe you actually like the fact you've got these sort of very light whippy frames and you say, I want to slow that down a bit, this actually could do 2 jobs. It can make the racket a little easier to handle, but also be there to help you tighten up your strings. But I also think then your priority would probably be more to say, I'm not so concerned about differences in the string bed, I'm more concerned about cost and convenience and potentially the environment. I think those have to outweigh the ultimate playability. Because if I think then about serious players, players playing in tournaments, really sort of high level players, I think the fact you really are changing around the feel of the string bed, I just don't think you're going to like that at all. But also, I think you're probably going to be okay with changing your strings, or you may even be breaking them long before they've actually gone dead. I don't think this is for you. You know your tensions, you know the balance point, you know the swing weights. Are you really going to put this on the bridge of your racket to save a few hours and maybe a couple of pounds? I don't think you are. So as my final verdict, believe it or not, I still actually really like the idea behind a retensor. The environmental aspect, I think, is very, very real. I think the convenience argument is really good for a certain type of player. And the basic technology does what it claims to do. It puts tension back into your strings and makes it playable for longer. I put it on my racket, I tightened it up, and the string bed became tighter and more playable. So in that aspect, it absolutely works. But my problem is, for me, the benefits don't outweigh what it's done to the racket in terms of the type of player I am and the fact I have configured my rackets exactly how I want them. So I'd love to get your thoughts and opinions on this. Not sure if anybody else has actually used this thing. What's your thoughts and opinions on this? Because I'm just one person with one opinion. Would love to get other people's thoughts to say, actually, I might like to try this. Leave your thoughts in the comments.